Hi, everybody. This is Patti Negri. Welcome to the Witching Hour. I have a great guest for you and a perfect guest because what is today? Today is Dia de las Muertes. And today, straight from Mexico City, I have the beautiful Jaime Gironés and his new book, The Little Book of the Day of the Dead. So he's going to tell you everything you need to know about today and what it is and how it is sort of amazingly ties in with the Halloween Samhain holiday we're just coming down from. But before I introduce you to Jaime and his beautiful book, let me tell you a little bit what I am doing this week. So if you are listening to this in the week we first drop at myparanormal.net, November 1st, we just got through Halloween. We just got through Samhain, New Year's, pagan New Year's, candy, overeating, costumes, pumpkins, a lot of orange and purple. And I hope you had a great time. I am sure I did, since I'm moved space and time a little bit right now. I'm probably just still in the air getting back from 5 days in New Orleans and the Vampire Ball, where we had convivium dinners and salons and masked balls and all sorts of magic. And I did 2 seances on Halloween Day. Yes, I am working cloning very well. I did a seance for the Last Tuesday Society in the UK on Zoom. And later that night, I did one live at the House of Blues for the Vampire Ball. So I've been talking to dead all day. And maybe you have too. But this week upcoming, if you're into my classes, my Tuesday class, I'm going to do practical magic. Good old fashioned practical magic. You don't have to be a witch. You don't have to be a psychic. You don't have to be a medium. But there are simple things you could put into your life every day from the minute you get up to the minute you can go to bed that adds a little bit of magic into your life and helps you get things done with a little magic. I don't know what else to say. From things you do in your bathroom to when you get up in the morning into the kitchen. So Tuesday, practical magic. If you're interested, go to universitymagicus.com, university, magickus.com. Also, this weekend, because the veil is still really, really thin, for those of you who like my TFIL boys, Elton Castee and Corey and the whole group, you can come with us this weekend. There's a secret location. We are doing public. We're not even going to tell you where. We're not even going to tell you where. It was going to be at the Cecil Hotel, but we went better. Yep, we did. So this weekend, I think it's Friday and Saturday. There's still tickets left. So go to Send It Society. Look up Elton Castee, TFIL. There is still tickets. You can actually come with us on an investigation of a crazy haunted place. And who doesn't want to do that while the veil is still thin? That's all my travel for a couple weeks, but we've got some good stuff coming up. Thanksgiving weekend, I'm going to be in good old Virginia City doing a live stream where you could go live or on video. The weekend after that, I'm going to be in Dallas, Fort Worth doing a whole very witchy fun weekend that I'd love to have you come to. And the weekend after that, me and a bunch of my paranormal folks are going to be at a really big Paracon, the Unity Paracon in Las Vegas. So come join us here, join us there, join us everywhere. Okay. Yep. Who is this? This is Witch Willow. Witch Willow is not taken off her Halloween witch hat yet. We have matching capes, matching hats, matching cloaks, and everything. So this week's Willow Report, my favorite part of the day, she's gotten heavy. She's up to 11 pounds. Indeed, 11 pounds of insanity. I made a big discovery. You're going to be so surprised by this. Willow is spoiled. Crazy. Who'd have thunk it? This little princess is it's been the pandemic for a year and a half where I used to my house would be filled with people all the time. My husband's band rehearsing, me doing seances around the dining room table, me seeing clients one-on-one sitting at my dining room table or in the living room. Well, that hasn't happened for a year and a half, and it's starting to happen just again. So I literally had my first clients at my dining room table the other day, 2 lovely women, one I knew very well. And it was time for quiet time around the dining room table. She would have none of it. Me putting attention on someone else besides her, me attention to women that she didn't particularly know and want. It was a circus. It became a circus. We are trying to have this beautiful private time around the table, and up comes Willow with her loudest squeaky toy. Squeak, 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 squeak. Drop it at their feet. That didn't do anything. She'd go back. I've got to bark. She's got to go get the lady and bark at her. No, that didn't work. Go get the bigger and louder squeaky toy. Squeak, 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 squeak. Drop it at the feet. Willow, it's not your turn. It's not your time. You get the other 23 and a half hours of the day, Willow. No, no. And my headset's gone. One thing after another, for the entire hour and a half they were there, her entire purpose was to take the full focus of everybody and everything in that space. And she was running, she was doing those zoomies up and down and all around, barking. Somebody would walk within a half a block of the house and she would bark and run. So guess what, Willow? You're spoiled. I think we're going to have to do something about that. As you know, I've been saying we're going to get a real trainer because she flunked puppy school after Halloween, and I guess it's after Halloween. So you guys know a good dog trainer out there? Get yourself a dog, get yourself a kitty, go to the local shelter, go to the local wherever, everywhere. Oh, she's kissing me. She's a good girl. But you're spoiled. See, she wants all the attention herself. All right, that's it for the Willow Report. See you next time. Have a great week. Bye. And now for our magic. We are going to travel in between Mexico and Ireland and Mexico. Why is that, you say? Because we are getting into the holiday season. And a lot of things that we need at the holiday season is a little bit extra money. Yeah, a little bit extra money. And why we go to Ireland for money, this is one of my favorite money spells. I'm kind of famous for my dollar bill spell. You may know that, or sticking money into the refrigerator. But my Leprechaun Money Pot spell is amazingly effective. So I thought I would tell you about it because we're just getting out of Halloween and Samhain. We're getting ready. Now is the time some people shop for presents for people and for the new year. So leprechauns, they have a pot of gold. They're at the end of the rainbow. They like money for money's sake. And it's at the end of the rainbow. They love it for what it is. They don't attach a lot of meaning to it. They don't attach a lot of anything but money for money's sake. That's a really good attitude to have because a lot of us have this idea that money is a struggle and money is hard and it's you have to work to get it and it's a big thing and it's this big mystery that's just out of reach. It's not just out of reach, it's at the end of the rainbow right there. Leprechauns know it. So what I advise you to do, if you want to have a different attitude about money, and when you have a different attitude about money, you will have a different reality to money because that's how it works. Get yourself a Leprechaun Money Pot. Now you can get a little pot. Actually, my friend Phoebe just gave me this plastic green, probably left over from the dollar store at, last St. Patty's Day. But you could I started out with an envelope, just a plain old envelope. And I wrote right on it, Leprechaun Money Pot. I think my first one, I put a picture of a leprechaun. I drew a very bad picture of a leprechaun. It could be an envelope. It could be a little shoe box. It could be a little tiny box to start out. A Leprechaun Money Pot is going to grow your money. What I decided to do, and you're going to put money in it, just a little bit of money when you have some money. When I first did mine, I decided I do live in a cash business, or I used to pre-pandemic, where a lot of people paid me in cash and I come in. So I decided I was going to collect $100 bills. Why not? I didn't have any around. I didn't even have one at the time. I decided I was going to collect $100 bills. But I had a $1 bill and I Sharpied 2 zeros on it. So now I had a $100 bill, $1 bill with 2 Sharpies. And I'm like, I'm going to start putting this in my Leprechaun Money Pot. I put it in an envelope and I tucked it away. And then every time I had an extra dollar, or eventually $100 or 20 or a 10 or anything in the middle, I would just tuck it into the little money pot. Now, the other thing you have to do to get that mindset of a leprechaun is you have to roll around in the money. You have to play with the money. Yeah, just like a kid. So take out that envelope, box, pot, whatever that is. Maybe throw it on the bed. Maybe roll it around on the floor. Throw that money up and roll and goofy. Money is easy. Money is fun. Money comes to me on the run. Make up a chant. It's going to be a little bit difficult when you have $1 bill in there or maybe $2 bills and rolling around, and it won't have the same effect. But start it there because you will be amazed. I'm really amazed. Soon enough, you're going to have lots of little bills in there, lots of little whatever it is that you are collecting. And when you're throwing it up and going, money is easy and money is fun, or whatever you want to say, you're starting to believe it. And when you start to believe it, it really does happen. Now, my little my leprechaun money pot, no matter what, I always have exactly how much money I need in that moment, at least. Literally, it's like, oh, wow, I need whatever, it's $50. Oh, $50. Oh, no, no. Last year, it's like, what? Our entire deck is falling down. I need $3,000. Guess what? I pulled $3,000 out of my leprechaun money pot. It's magic. So whether you want to start out $1 bills, you want to start out with change, but be careful throwing change from a big pot on your head. You might knock yourself out. But you have to do all the steps so you change your mindset. Because remember, in the psychological side of things, everything is mind, body, spirit. You have to believe it because you're never going to surpass your belief system. Body, you have to take action. And spirit is the magic that makes it happen. That's where the leprechauns come in. So get that envelope, get that box, write leprechaun, draw a leprechaun, charge a leprechaun, start collecting money and change your attitude about money. You'll be surprised how much easier money decides to come to you. Money is saved by you. I don't even know how it works, but it does. So have some money for the holidays. Start your leprechaun money pot now. Now let's go back to Mexico. But for now, let me introduce you to our guest of the week, the beautiful, all the way from Mexico City, Jaime Gironés. He was only 13 years old when he started practicing witchcraft. He is the communications director and the Sociedad Wicca Mexico organization. And he was a continuing writer for The Wild Hunt. And he's also the author of this amazing book I just got, Little Book the Day of the Dead. And since it is Day of the Dead, let me introduce you to Jaime. Hi, Jaime. How are you?
Hi, Patty. I'm good. Thank you. And you?
I am well. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
So you are my first, I think you're my first guest in Mexico at all, in Mexico City. I haven't been to that city, but I have a friend who goes a lot and shows me beautiful pictures.
Oh, well, whenever you visit, I have so many places to take you.
Okay, on the plane. Okay, so it is Day of the Dead. A lot of my people, we've all heard of it in America, or most of us has, but a lot of people don't know what it is. If they're pagans, they kind of understand Samhain, what Halloween is, and the celebrating of the dead. So kind of even before we get into your book, what is Day of the Dead?
Of course. Well, the Day of the Dead is a celebration here in Mexico and in other Latin American countries, and also celebrated in other regions across the world where there is Latin or Hispanic communities. It's celebrated usually on November 1st and November 2nd. And it's a time where we remember those dead loved ones or our ancestors, those that are dear to us that have passed away, and we honor them and we visit their graves. We set an altar for them and we leave them offerings. And we cook food. It's a party. It's a party, but a party where our guests are our dead loved ones. And it's a very diverse celebration. It's celebrated very differently across different regions in the country.
Okay. So in looking through your book, it's there's all sorts of different rituals and things. Like one of them is baking bread. There's a bread of the dead. What is that?
Yeah.
I want bread of the dead.
So yeah, food is a very important part of the holiday, and you can find different traditional food in different regions of the country. But the most common or the most famous food of the celebration is called pan de muerto, which is bread of the dead. And it's a sweet bread with the shape of bones. And it's actually something that we all wait with anticipation every year. And around September, when the bakeries are trying to make bread of the dead, everyone posts on social media with excitement. The bread of the dead is here. It's a sweet bread, and it represents the bones of the dead.
And you eat it. You do eat it.
We eat it, yeah, but we also sometimes leave it on the altar as an offering, and that food is usually not eaten. It's just left on the altar as an offering.
So does it look like, I'm just picturing all sorts of beautiful and wonderful and funny things. Does it look like bones, like a thigh bone, a leg bone?
So
a bone?
So it's a bread with a circle shape, and it has a circle in the middle, and it usually has 4 bones to each cardinal point.
Wow.
Like in a cross. That's like the most common shape of it.
The most common shape. That's beautiful. So now, is it sort of like, because I know traditions of eating the bones of your ancestors, it's sort of like that, right? Without eating the bones of your ancestors, eating bread, the sacredness in it. Sort of, maybe. Maybe you go, what is eating the bones of your ancestors?
And more than eating the bones of your ancestors is more like it's a bread that represents literally the dead, but eating the bread is just like a fun part of it. That specific part of it does not have a meaning, like eating the bones. No.
Okay. Okay. Not like, the blood of Christ and all that kind of stuff. That is beautiful, though. I can't. I'm gonna have to look that up, and I want to see what the bread of the dead looks like. I like that.
So I have one. I have some drawings in my book on when you can create one, on how you can make bread of the dead, and I have some drawings there.
Okay, so that's great. So the book has recipes and rituals and spells and altars. It's adorable book, you guys. It's a hardcover book. It's just when you want to hold on to and carry with you and sit around. It looks pretty. So now is Day of the Dead. It's right by Halloween or Samhain, and that is when the veil between the worlds is thinnest. So they really are kind of tying together that way. Do you guys in the celebration realize that the veil is thin then, and that's why you celebrate?
Yeah. So I have two answers for that. The first one is that the context of the Day of the Dead, or why, of the background, why it's celebrated around this time of year, is that in indigenous communities in the center and south of Mexico, the harvest of the maize or the corn happens around this time of the year. So the rainy season is coming to an end, and it's a time when the harvest starts, and it's a time from scarcity to abundance, and the people celebrate this abundance with their ancestors. They thank them for their blessings, as the harvest wouldn't happen without their blessing, but also they share this harvest with them. So during this part of the year, we are sharing what we have earned this year with our loved ones, or our ancestors. And the other part of my answer would be like, as a pagan and as a witch, I also see, of course, a correlation between Samhain and the Day of the Dead. The way I have seen it always is that the veil between the worlds is thinner. So for me, it's just like, it's common sense that is at this time of the year. And the common way of looking at the Day of the Dead is that the dead visit us. And my personal view, and from my witch perspective on looking at the Day of the Dead, it is that it's not that they are literally visiting us, because they have never left. It's just that when the veil between the worlds is thinner, we are noticing them. We are realizing that they are here.
Right. And that's beautiful, and celebrating them. So in looking at your book, and again, we see things like the marigolds and the sugar skulls. What are some of the reasons behind that, or the significance of marigolds and sugar skulls?
Of course. Well, the sugar skulls, let me start with the marigolds. Well, the most common flower in the celebration is the cempasúchil, also known as the Mexican marigold, and it's a yellow with a strong yellow-orange color, and which represents light and life, and it has a very sweet smell, very sweet smell. And it also happens that the harvest of this flower happens around this time of year. So this is why it's used on the Day of the Dead. And it is used to, in several ways. It is basically used to call our dead loved ones. So some people leave flowers or sprinkle the petals from the entrance of their door to their altar to guide them, to guide the dead loved ones, or our visitors, our guests, to our altar. Some people even in some towns or population in some areas, they leave flowers from the graveyards to their homes. They make a whole long path of flowers, and that's the meaning of like the flowers. It's also left on the altar as offerings, and you can see them in Mexico City and in other areas of the country. You can see the cempasúchil or the Mexican marigold all around the city during this season. Like there's a whole avenue that has these flowers, so you can see the strong orange yellow color.
Beautiful. That is great. I love the idea of all the way from the graveyard to the altar. That is gorgeous.
Yeah, and in my book, when I talk about the flowers and why we leave them as an offering, for example, I understand that you cannot find these flowers in other regions probably. So I recommend, for example, when leaving an offering to your ancestors or to your dead loved ones, to look for a flower with a sweet smell, and that it's abundant at that time of the year, at this time of the year.
Okay. So I do want to talk about the altar in a minute, but let's go back to sugar skulls. Everybody loves sugar skulls, but what's the reason behind sugar skulls?
Sugar skulls, well, they literally represent the death, and they're also eaten out. Sugar skulls, well, they are a candy made out of sugar completely with the shape of a skull, and with the eyes and with decorations very colorful. And they are used in different ways. They literally represent the death, and they're used in different ways. The most common is to put them on the Day of the Day altars. There are no Day of the Day altars without skulls or without the sugar skulls. Also, a lot of people or children eat them during this season. And when I was in primary school, there was a huge Day of the Day altar that the founder of the school used to make, and the whole school used to make. And it was a very long aisle with an altar. And what they used to do is that they would put a sugar skull with the name of each child, with the name of each person, even if we were alive. But it was like a fun activity to see your name there. Yeah, but it represents that. But the sugar skull, it's like all around the season as well. And some people eat it, and some people just leave them on the altars.
Altar. That's beautiful. It seems to be a very colorful holiday, what we look at it from afar, which
it is. It is colorful, and it is a celebration. It is actually a party. And I think it's sometimes too difficult to express how it is a party when it's related to death or when it's related to our dead loved ones, because usually people is used to treat death with, like, I don't know, with a respect and sad point of view only, like a grieving point of view. And it has a nostalgic tone, but it comes more from a celebration, and it's colorful. If you're making a party, but your guests are your dead loved ones, your ancestors. And I think it has to do with, in general, our Mexican culture has a very close relationship with that. We laugh with death. We make fun of her. We even have names to give. We call death in different ways, like la huesura, which means the skinny one, and we make fun of death.
What are some of the things that you would put on an altar, the Day of the Dead altar?
Right. So first of all, the Day of the Day altar is like the most common activity of the Day of the Dead. Although you can find very different celebrations across regions or way of celebrating the Day of the Dead, the one that is very common is the altar. And the altar is consists of a lot of things, and even setting up the altar is like a ritual itself. And the most common items that go into an altar will be like the pictures of your dead loved ones. That will be like the first one. And part of it is thinking, who would you like to include in your Day of the Day altar? Looking for pictures. I get together with my family. We go together through photo albums, and we select pictures, and we talk about our relatives that are no longer here. It's a very nostalgic but loving activity. And so the first one will be the pictures. The second one will be the flowers that I mentioned, the cempasúchil or Mexican marigold, or any other flowers. Water, and water usually it's left because it is considered that our dead relatives are thirsty after their journey to our homes. So we leave them water as well as food because they're hungry, and we'll leave them there in the altar because they're visiting us, they're visiting our home. So just as you would be receiving a regular guest at your home, and you offer water and you offer food, here you do the same for your dead loved ones. We also leave salt, which represents purification. What else? Candy. In the case, for example, that there are dead loved ones that died as a child, it is often that we leave them juice or candy or toys, things more related to children. And we also leave items that are specific to the individual. For example, my grandfather loved wine and used to smoke a lot. So I always, next to his picture, I leave wine and a cigarette. Or my aunt that loved tequila, I leave a tequila there.
And that's good.
Yeah, like it depends on there are other items that are specific to the person, but the most common items are the flowers, candles. Of course, we put candles, and the amount of candles mostly depends on how many candles you want to put. Some people leave a candle for each of your dead loved ones, so it also depends how many dead loved ones you're leaving. Some just put, I don't know, like a certain amount of candles for everyone.
Right. So it doesn't matter, it's not just like the recently dead. I know in some pagan practices, a traditional British craft, you could put on the picture, the altar, the day of our Samhain altar, you would put anybody, but you would call out the names of those just that past year. So for Dia de las Muertas, for yours, they don't, it's just all of your dead. If they died as a child.
That's a really good question. And it depends. It depends a lot on the person. There are some regions that I know that do not include their Day of the Dead, their dead that recently died, and they wait around like months or a year after they have died to include them the next year. In my case, I do include them, even if they have died recently.
Okay. All right. I think that is beautiful. I absolutely adore that you guys talk about them, because I think that's what our modern society misses, that reminiscent. Everybody's stuck on their televisions or in their phones and on their things. And to really talk about that, I think that's something we should all incorporate, whether we're celebrating that or not, to talk about. So thank you. I think I'm going to do it this year. Definitely. I'm going to read your book. I don't know about the baking the bread though. My husband won't let me in the kitchen. But other than that, so, and going about a little bit, I'd love to know a little bit more about you. You got into the practice of witchcraft. You were really little, like 10 years oldish. How did that happen?
Right. Well, I think I was lucky, and I was born, although I was raised in a Catholic family. I feel lucky or fortunate that I was born in a family or with parents that were very open-minded, and they always allowed me to explore my spirituality. And my father was, when he was younger, he was very into esoteric and occult subjects. So he was the one that gave me my first tarot cards, and like that's how I started, like, in the witchy stuff in general. And at some point I found a Wiccan book in a bookstore, and I liked it, and I thought, like, this is just like what I have always thought, kinda, and I started reading. I first started studying online, and then I found a coven in person and a teacher in person. And my parents even visited some of the celebrations, some of the rituals, to understand more what was it about. And they liked it, and they even stayed for a bit. And that's how I started on Wicca, I think.
That is beautiful. Yeah, I got my mom to come to some stuff when she was alive too. Come see the crazy things your daughter's doing now. And it
No.
was cool. She got it. And so what is the Wild Hunt? I see that you're a writer of the Wild Hunt, and I kind of look it up. So tell my listeners who are very interested in this whole subject, what is the Wild Hunt?
Of course. Well, the Wild Hunt is a news website that is made for pagans, witches, Wiccans, heathens, and minority religions. And it's an international news site. And there you can find news about all these subjects, about what happens in the community. And I'm a columnist there. I have a column there. I write every 2-3 months, and I speak from my perspective on how's my practice here, what other pagans or witches are doing here in the community, and that's it.
That is beautiful. So yeah, check it out. And we'll get to how people can find you and how people can find that stuff. So how is it in Mexico City, the acceptance of the witchy part of things? Is it more open than it used to be? Is it just kind of part of the practice or not looked at?
It's a very complex question. And on one hand, I think Mexico is a very magical place. I mean that you can find magic or even pagan practices all around, or even like folk magic practices. And it is very often like, I don't know, if you go to a market to find like the lady that is known as a sorcerer, and she also may have like Catholic signs, but she like performs magic. She creates candles for people, and people go to buy her herbs and candles. Or you can walk through the street and you can find like shrines to the Lady Guadalupe, Virgen de Guadalupe, or to Santa Muerte. Like, you can find this, I don't know, like magical, spiritual, magical side of Mexico all around. But at the same time, like, most of the population is Catholic. And so it's weird because a lot of people are into magic, or even they can speak about witchcraft, but it is still often that it do say that, I don't know, I'm a witch, or in Spanish, a brujo or bruja. They would first be like, what do you mean? And then when you explain a bit what is it about, they're like, oh, you're a good witch, you're a white witch, and like they feel better. But I think in general, the magical part of it, everyone is most of them are interested about it. But when you talk about the religion or the practice, or more the spiritual practices, they take longer to process it.
Right. I get that, sort of like here too. So on that same note, for the Day of the Dead, is that considered Catholic or pagan or just part of the culture, or is it considered anything at all as far as?
That's a good question. I would say just part of the culture. The history is full of syncretism. It's a mix between how the Mesoamerican people viewed death, and even had some celebrations related to death. But also it's related to the Catholic celebrations that came with the Spanish people. But nowadays it's more in the culture, and it goes beyond our religion. You can see it. You can see people that maybe consider themselves atheists, or that they do not have a spiritual or religious path or practices, and you can see that they set up a Day of the Day altar. It's in the culture. And one example I give is that 4 years ago, we had a very strong earthquake in Mexico City in 2017, and some buildings collapsed. And you could see that it was around September, so next month that it was almost the Day of the Dead, the neighbors around these buildings built or set up altars, set Day of the Dead altars outside these collapsed buildings to honor the people that have died there. I mean, it's something that like no one in specific organized, but it's the people, it's the community that do that. And it goes beyond the religion or the practices.
That's beautiful. I must say, I can't speak for the rest of the country, but in Los Angeles, in California, which has a very large Mexican population, we like to celebrate Day of the Dead, or our version of it. Again, not everybody knows what it means, but we have this one great big cemetery right in the middle of Hollywood. It's called Hollywood Forever. They do a huge Day of the Dead celebration every year, and it's a festival, it's a party, it's everything. They probably even have that bread there. And it's really great. Again, we do have a very big Latin and Mexican population. We are right next to Mexico and in Southern California. But I can't speak for the rest of the country. That's pretty great.
Yeah. Yeah. And here, like you can find the Day of the Day even like in or altars in schools or libraries, or I don't know, like a library may set up a Day of the Day altar dedicated to writers that have died. Like, yeah, it's part of the culture. You can see it. You can see altars everywhere.
Yeah. My little neighborhood, I live in the Hollywood Hills, right under the Hollywood sign. And it's like one of those Hollywood Hills neighborhood. And we do what we call Halloween, because it's a neighborhood really big. This year, it is a complete Day of the Dead theme, and they are doing an ancestor altar in my neighborhood, both for trick-or-treating little kids, and they're telling people they can bring stuff, and it's also a very adult as well as kid celebration. I'm not going to be here. I'm going to actually be in New Orleans, but I just love that my neighborhood, from pirate theme one year and whatever theme, Wizard of one year, it's all a Day of the Dead, and they're doing a full altar and looking into it. So magic is everywhere.
That sounds very nice.
So going back to the witchy part of thing, you're practicing, you've been for a long time, you're an author, you write for, a pagan. What are some of the things? And my show is about empowerment. We have a lot of new just beginning and searching for their practice, learning a path, creating a path for themselves. What are some of your day-to-day things where your faith, your belief system, your witchcraft or pagan, your Wiccan helps you in your day-to-day life?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I think there's always a moment, at least one moment during my day that I go to my altar to connect with my spirit, with the divine, with my guides, and to first ground myself. I think that during our day-to-day, or during our day jobs, or with the traffic, or now with the pandemic, and like sometimes we may put our attention to things that at the end are not that important. So I think that the most important part of my routine will be that at some point of my day to always go to that place that is sacred to me, or that space, even if it's a mind space and not a physical space, and ground myself and think about and reflect on my spiritual part, on my spirit, and connect to the divine.
That is beautiful. And we all can use that a little bit every day. Well, I can't believe time is flying by. So my people who are now interested in you, where can people find you? Where can people find your book? Anything you have that's upcoming that you want to talk about?
Oh, thank you. Well, and my book, you can find it in your favorite local bookstore. It's also on known online stores like Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You can also find it at llewellyn.com. And you can find me on Twitter as Jaime Gironés all together, or in Instagram as Magical.
Okay, beautiful. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited. And again, we are doing this. We're taping this a little bit beforehand, but I want to wish everybody a happy Day of the Dead, or say it in Spanish.
Día de Muertos.
Día de los Muertos. It's pretty. It's such a pretty language for our clunky American. Clunky is my word of the day. You don't have anything clunky on you, Jaime. Anyway, so look him up. This book, again, it is beautiful. You could throw it in your bag, you could throw it in your thing, and set it real pretty on the coffee table. That's all I can say. And I can't wait to make that bread if anybody ever leaves me. You have things cutouts, how to make things, how to make flowers. It's kind of a real handy dandy little package deal.
Yes. And thank you so much, Patti. I appreciate your kind words.
Well, thank you so much. Come back again. You have another book coming up soon?
No, not yet. I'm processing this one and I'm enjoying the moment.
Good.
But who knows what happens next.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. So thank you for visiting the Witchy Hour, Jaime Gironés.
Thank you, Patti. Thank you for the invitation.